Today's episode is dedicated solely to the college recruiting process. This is Recruiting 101 with Aaron Cunningham and Ross Hawley on episode 89 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Aaron Cunningham, hello, sir. How are you?
Ross, how are you, man?
Man, I'm good. You know what? I just want to start by saying this. I'm super happy for you and your wife because this butthead is going to Thailand for
sir.
three weeks. Hey, let's hear about this. Seriously, I mean, that's not a small place to go to. So let's hear about when did this come into the mix, and when did you guys start planning to go to Thailand?
Yeah, it's a couple years in the making. Going to go over there with our family. Be over there. We'll be in Thailand for about 2 weeks, and then we're going to go over to Singapore for about 4 or 5 days, and then come on home. And it's been pretty cool to kind of plan out. Starting in Bangkok, so just hitting the ground running, right? And then we'll go down to Phuket, that island, and kind of island hop down there for about a week. And then head over to Singapore where, I grew up as a little kid for about 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
Granted, that was in the late 80s. So kind of excited to experience that. Obviously, it's changed quite a bit, but get over there and check that out. So, yeah, fired up, man. Take off. I think we leave next week.
You stay safe. And if you see those oceans receding, you take your bride and you guys run for the freaking hills. I have nightmares.
Quick.
Yes. Well, hey man, I'm glad to see your smiling face as always. Just today, for the Recruiting 101 episode, man, I want to start by saying this. Thank you to everyone for all your feedback. It's been a lot of fun just to kind of get everyone's feedback on the show and this segment. I think it's been a swimming success so far, and I just think that's because there's two genuine guys that you're talking, and we're doing our best to help student athletes, parents, families, everybody with the recruiting process. So I love how every week, kind of prior to our this segment, you'll put out a message there on the Facebook group, Texas High School and Travel Ball Facebook group, but you'll ask, hey, submit your questions, and it's super interactive. So today I want to say this. We're gonna focus on three or four main topics based on kind of categorizing the questions and the comments that we had requested that we talk about today. So those topics are going to be exposure, traveling with your travel team, and then the transfer portal stuff. So let's get into it first. And I think the topic I'll lead with is exposure. And I know that's pretty broad, but I would say this, the first question I'll have, and let's do this. Let's kind of the same way, the banter we have back and forth. Let's go kind of, a quick summary of what we think of the topic, and then we'll collaborate on it. So I'll lead with you, Aaron. You take the lead here today when we talk about exposure. And here's the question is, when do you start concerning yourself as a parent or as a player, right? But when should a player start concerning himself with exposure to college programs as it relates to the recruiting process?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it can start as early as the beginning of your high school career. You're going to kind of start to try to accumulate that resume. I know you've always used that analogy of a job interview, and so part of getting a job is having some experience, right? And
that's right.
And so being able to get a good resume going can start at the beginning of your high school career. But really, you need to, like, if you're talking about when do you need to be concerned about it, following your sophomore year of high school is kind of when your colleges are going to really start locking in. I just got a wave of calls and emails from college coaches kind of saying, hey, in January, can you send some of the 28s to our camps? And that's where they want to start to get, look at them. So 28s right now are sophomores in high school. So based off the feedback you get just from the colleges asking about players, really your sophomore year is when you want to start to lock in a little bit.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate from a point we made last episode on this is, I think everyone just needs to kind of slow down, especially in the culture today, the landscape of recruiting today. Recruiting kind of takes place, it seems like, in like 6-month segments. And what I mean by that is it's almost like you're going semester to semester, and the programs are constantly evaluating their rosters. So as a 28, 27, and obviously even 26 at this point, but you have to understand how they operate. They're not in a super big hurry. College programs are not in a super big hurry to make decisions on guys because they have so many different ways to get guys that have playing experience and resumes. So for the high school kids and the families out there, when I hear exposure, to me, I'm kind of like, I don't think that should be the main goal and really even the main concern until your junior year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the other thing too, and I guess we'll get to this when we get more to the portal part of this conversation, but rosters nowadays at the college level are being built year to year.
That's right.
So to think that as a sophomore, any school can tell you what their roster is going to look like 2 or 3 years from now. I mean, they're either lying or they won't, or they'll tell you they have no idea, because it's just the truth. You can't. I mean, you can go look at the best rosters in college baseball all the way on down, and there's turnover every year. And with that, the access they can get to players, they don't know what their roster is going to look like next year. Right. Some of them are still trying to figure out what their roster is going to look like in a couple months, when their regular season starts. And that's just the truth. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's good to kind of have like the mindset of creating a resume as opposed to, oh, I've got to go get in this tournament or else I'm not going to get recruited, because that's just not even true at all.
Good point. Good point. I had a conversation with a Division III coach the other day, and it was relating to 27, so juniors. And I said, and this is a really good top 25 type program. And he said, Ross, we're not on 27s right now. We will be, soon. Spring semester is when you can kind of expect. So if you were planning it out, and you're talking about exposure, but if you're planning it out, I mean, think about that as like if you're a junior right now, during almost Christmas break, holiday break, there are Division II, Division III programs that really haven't even sniffed the 27. So you have time. Exposure to me is the most important piece of exposure, is understanding who you are as a student athlete. And if you have a really good understanding of how you fit academically, how you profile as a baseball player, what do they always say? It's like, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Well, and when you're ready, to me, it makes sense that, the exposure piece, if you have to create exposure, you're going to know, going into your junior year, if no one's calling you, if no one's reaching out to you, if you don't really know where you fit and you're a junior, you're going to know that, hey, I'm going to have to do some stuff proactively. And that's when I say you kind of put the pedal down exposure wise, introducing yourself to programs. And then like you reiterated, the job search process. I mean, guys, just whatever it takes, whatever you have to do to get to the interview, that's what exposure is to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And it's, it's the old cliche in sports. Like, if you seek out exposure before you're ready, then you're getting exposed.
That's right.
The other thing too is you need to make sure you're ready to seek it out. I think a lot of people just want to skip steps in the process, and the steps don't happen the same for everybody, and so you just need to make sure that you're getting good advice on when you should be seeking it out, for one. Because I think a lot of kids, they want to go to a camp, or they want to go to a tournament maybe that's going to have some eyeballs on it or whatever. But if you show up there and you're lacking physicality, or you're not moving well, or you're not throwing the ball very well or whatever, you could be hurting yourself. And so, like you said, one of the biggest mistakes everybody makes in this process is trying to hurry it up. Slow down and take your time. And again, like, if you're good enough, Man, we've had a lot of kids get Division I offers in the spring of their senior year because
Whew.
they've been good enough. You
That's
know,
right.
these guys, they don't care when you pop; they just need you to pop. And when it happens, they're going to come get you. You know, we had a kid actually that got a full scholarship offer to Texas Tech a month after he graduated high school because
That's crazy.
he went into a league in the summer and just went like bonkers. Had a great senior year, followed it into the summer, you know, and ended up hitting leadoff for them 6 months later, and had no Division I offers up until that point. So, you know, the thing is like you said, take your time and get yourself ready to get the exposure. And then once you're ready, go seek it out. And for most kids, that isn't until later in the process.
Yep.
So,
you know what comes to my mind, Aaron, is I remember when I was in high school, man, I didn't have armpit hair until I was like a junior, a senior. I mean, I didn't go, I was a late bloomer, right? Um, And I say that to comfort the guys that are going through this process. But the thing that comes to my mind is I remember a guy named Hank Krause. He was a Pittsburgh Pirates scout, and he came to one of the first games that he came to. I was sitting there talking to him after the game, and he takes my hat off, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He looks at my hair and he inspects my head, and I go, "What are you doing, Hank?" And he goes, I want to see if you have a receding hairline. You obviously haven't started shaving." And my whole point in saying that is I was 18. I got a guy inspecting my physical. And I said, "Why do you do that?" And he said, "Listen, you're just now starting to blossom, and this is where you're at. So what can we project?" And I think there's a lot of kids out there that we always hear the physicality of the game. Well, you can't rush some of the physicality, and the physicality of the game goes hand in hand with the exposure of the game, right? And if we'll use this rule right here, if you have a receding hairline and you're 18, it's time to get exposure. Like, go get exposure. But dude, if you're cool and you haven't even started shaving, and yeah, maybe you haven't sprouted you're good. You got some time. Is that a good law to follow?
100%. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you need to know, you know, and that's where having a good circle around you of people that know the game, you know, your high school coaches, your travel coaches, your trainers, you know, people that have been around the sport a little bit to where, like, you know, they have no incentive in lying to you, and they tell you you're ready, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, I still, one of the best things I've seen over the last year or so was that interview at the All-Star game. I think it was with Scooble.
Yep.
The two best pitchers on the planet. Pretty much, you can't even argue that those are the two best pitchers in the world. And in high school, they had a combined 3 offers, you know, coming out of high school. And here we are, you know, years later, they're the 2 best pitchers on earth, right? And they were insane. You know, Scuba was saying he wasn't even the best pitcher at his high school, you know. So a lot of people, I think, misinterpret early development as like a long-term success, and that's just not true. Same with me. I was a late bloomer. You know, I was 5'10" when I graduated high school, and I'm 6'3". And all that happened after I left high school. And that's the case for a lot of people, you know, and that's why, you know, we always talk about it, but it's just true, man. If you want it bad enough, just keep showing up every day and working, because, you know, if it's in the cards, it'll happen if you just keep working.
And like you said, something that I think should be reiterated: that the coaches don't care when you pop. They want you when you pop. Like they'll take care of the timing and everything. Just make sure you're in front of them when you're ready to be in front of them. I want to get into, this is an interesting topic as we kind of move to the next topic. And boy, I'll be interested to get your take. But it's traveling. So it's called travel ball. And I know long ago when the phrase travel ball was probably coined, it was because you had to travel to go see other kids, outside your area. So you could have a good comp to where you're at, right? I'm from this town. I got to go to that town to see, how I stack up. But let's take it all the way through. And obviously this is recruiting 101. So travel ball and traveling for, let's go hand in hand with the exposure stuff. But how important is traveling with your select club in the summers? Like what are your thoughts on that as we initially kind of introduce that topic?
Yeah. I think obviously a lot of it is just very much where are you from? You know, kids that are blessed to be in Houston and Dallas and South Florida and Southern California and Atlanta. I mean, the baseball comes to you, right? So those kids are blessed. Now, if you're from Iowa or you're from, North Dakota or something like that, you're probably going to spend, if you're looking for that dream, you're probably going to spend the whole summer traveling. But I do think, and like what we try to hold our standard to at our academy is if we're going to ask our families to leave home and travel somewhere, we want it to be worth it. We want the competition to be good. We want the tournament to have, a pretty good fertile recruiting base. We want to have spoken to enough college coaches saying that they're going to be there for us to say, okay, hey, spend your money and go to this. It's going to be worth it. But I think traveling just to travel, I don't really get it. I personally, I think if you live in Texas and you live in certain parts of the country, man, there's good baseball here every weekend.
That's right.
And if you put yourself in the right tournaments, then most of the time you're going to get that competition. So I think a lot of it's really like case to case, but to me, if you're going to invest in traveling, then there needs to be a real thought behind it. Don't just say, oh, we're going to go to Atlanta. Well, why?
Yeah. Good
or,
point.
oh, hey, we're going to go to Arizona. Well, why? We're going to go to South Florida. Okay. Well, why? And if the why comes back, well, the competition's great. There's going to be a ton of college coaches there. The kids are going to get something out of it too, where they're going to get to learn how to, play baseball a little bit out of their comfort zone, playing somewhere they've never been before, staying in a hotel and, having to handle baseball a little bit differently. There could be a ton of value to traveling. But if you're traveling just because you want to tell everybody that you're traveling to play baseball, I've never really understood that.
Let me ask you this question, because I know whenever someone comes to me, if someone says, Ross, can you help me and direct me with the recruiting process and give me some ideas and things to consider? And the first thing that I always say is this, and I would love to know like a percentage on it, but I'll make the percentage up. But I know this in the experiences that I've had in this game for as long as I've been around. I know that the majority of kids are going to go to a school within probably 1 to 4 hours from their hometown. 1 to 4 hours, maybe a half day drive, like 4 to 6 hours, right? I always say to kids, hey, if you got a call from ABC University today, could you be there tomorrow at noon for a workout? That's a good rule of thumb. It's like a proximity rule. But so when it comes to recruiting, the chances that you go that you go to a school reasonably close to your home, let's just say within 5 hours, I mean, it's got to be 90% or higher, okay? Because recruiting is regional, right? Regional. And you brought up like North Dakota, hey, South Dakota, hey. The beautiful thing about the travel stuff is there are college programs in every state. Every single state, there are opportunities. So start with your state. If you're from Wisconsin, play tournaments in Wisconsin that are in front of all the college and the programs that are in Wisconsin. Start there. If it's not enough, then branch out. But you hit the nail on the head about the big markets, the Houstons, the Dallases. Why everybody comes here to get guys, and we know that, but you're not going to go to school in all likelihood. If you live in New Mexico, you're not going to school in New York in all likelihood. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Someone on our Facebook's gonna be like, well, actually, Ross, yeah. Okay. I understand there are exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, you're going to go close up. You're going to go closer to home than further away. So use that as your compass. And if you're playing for a team that I love what you said about Why? Why are we going to Florida? What's the point of that? Are there going to be schools there recruiting kids specifically from our area, and they have a history of doing that? What are your thoughts as I kind of say the proximity rule?
Yeah, I mean, I think back on it, and we've had, I think, about over 400 kids that have committed over 15 years we've been doing it. I would say your 90% may even be generous. I'd say it's more than that.
Wow.
I'd say it's closer to 95. When we
Woo.
go, we'll go to we'll go to Atlanta, right, for the big WWBA event out there in the summer.
Yep.
And you'll be out at East Cobb. Back in the day, you're out at Lake Point. Tons of colleges out there, right? We'll have coaches come up to us out there, and they're like, "Hey, we're from the Citadel, and we love your shortstop." And all that. Hey, Johnny, Citadel's loving you, dude. Coach, I don't want to go there. Well, why? That's a great, good program, whatever. That's too far from home.
That's right.
All the time. They would rather, and the beauty, most of the kids would rather stay, like you said, in that 1 to 4 hours from home. There's a comfort there. Plus, moms don't like sending their kids to the other side of the country. Most moms are like, I don't want my baby going, where I got to get on a plane to go see them.
Yeah.
So there's so much that goes into it. And like you said, all the coaches want Texas kids. They all want Florida kids. They all want California kids. They all want Georgia, Atlanta area kids. So they come here, and I get it. Sometimes you do need to go chase competition, and that might mean traveling, for your higher level travel teams that have a dude at every spot, sometimes, yeah, you need to go travel to go find competition for that particular team. But most teams, that's not the case, and you're really kind of wasting your time. And if you do, for whatever reason, if you got a bunch of Houston area kids that for whatever reason they all want to play baseball, in Mississippi, well, then let's go to Mississippi and play.
Amen.
But like that, what a lot of people don't realize about college baseball is, yeah, your SEC schools and stuff like that have massive recruiting budgets. Most don't. So they can't afford to send their coaches out on the road on flights and put them in hotels for, weeks on end and finance the food and everything. They can't afford it, right? So your junior colleges, D2, D3s, small Division I's, mid majors, they got to be really smart about how they spend their money. And they're not going to just send their guys out to these out-of-state tournaments unless there's just, a meeting of the dudes at this tournament. And, there's a handful of those tournaments for sure. And like I said, for us, we will travel for those types of tournaments. But other than that, the Houston area produces a lot of good baseball players, and we can stay here. Luckily, between the colleges, the premier facility in Tomball, there's a lot of opportunity to play good baseball. So that's just my thing is I'm down to travel. I think there is definitely a need for it in a lot of cases, but make sure that there's a why and there's a good answer for that why. And if there is, hey, let's do it.
I think you travel seriously when you're in high school. I think you almost travel for most programs at this point. You travel for experience and you travel for competition. Like I think of the Connie Mack World Series. You're not going to play in the Connie Mack to get exposure. You're going for the experience.
Right.
So understand the purpose of the event and the experience. Like it's good to see outside competition and everything. But if that's what you're using those tournaments for sole reason to recruit, you're probably missing the boat. And then I would also say, for the college coaches out there, I mean, just go look at rosters, take your top 5 schools, go look at the rosters. If you're, I'll go back to the upper Midwest. If you live in Nebraska and you're interested, like start with the Nebraska schools, look at their roster. Where do the kids come from? You can see the makeup, and then you can kind of see their habits in recruiting, right? Hey, they recruit Nebraska guys only. I always like just think about it from a coach's perspective. If I'm a coach in New York and there's a kid from Texas that wants to come to my school, and I don't actively recruit Texas, which doesn't happen really, but if I don't recruit Texas, how are you going to get exposure to that coach? So if when we talk about the travel stuff, make sure that there's an expectation on the parents and the players that if there are schools that you're wanting to be seen by that don't recruit your area, you're going to be the one that's probably footing the bill, going and flying and getting to a camp and making sure that you're getting that exposure. You got to take yourself to the schools versus the schools coming to find the talent. So kind of know the situation you're in. And
Right.
if you're using those travel tournaments for exposure, and leaving you're traveling, make sure that those are strategic and you understand exactly what the purpose of the travel is for.
Yeah, no, 100%. We were in Arizona for a big event last summer, and I was talking to the head coach of UC Irvine, and he was like, "Golly, man, love Texas kids." And I was kind of like, "Well, hey, man, we've got a field full of them about to take the field," and he's like, "I'm going to stick around and watch." He's like, "But man, I'll be honest, I don't really need to leave Southern California to find players."
That's right.
And that's really the thing, because they also know that, like you're talking about, players don't want to go far from home. College coaches know that. It's hard for them to say, "Oh, I'm going to go pull a kid out of Texas. If he's good enough to play at UC Irvine, he's probably good enough to play at a Division I in Texas. How am I going to go? I'm not going to go spend my time trying to recruit a kid that I don't have a good chance on."
Great point.
I got Johnny down the street in Chino that can pick it, So that's kind of the way they look at it too, is like, can I really get that kid? Do I need to spend my time and my resources on recruiting a kid from a region of the country that's going to be extremely hard to get him to leave, And so I've had that feedback from a lot of coaches out of state, is like, hey, obviously, yeah, we're interested, but like, what's the reality here? Is the kid really want to leave Texas or not? And there's so many great options here that you kind of it's hard sometimes for those schools to even show interest, because they're just like, we love them, but like, be real with me. Like, am I wasting my time here? Or is this kid to actually come all the way out here?
That is such a solid point. And it's just understanding perspective. And I don't know, for whatever reason, it made me think of this, is like when you talk about the travel piece, like you brought up the moms and the convenience. Like, nobody wants to be that far away from home. And listen, if you are going to go far from home, I'll give you a nugget to consider. Try to be within a reasonable distance of a major airport. And if you're not, just like, to me, it's is it a direct flight? Just imagine what it looks like over Thanksgiving break. Imagine what it's going to look like over Christmas break. Let's just say, hey, I live in Clovis, New Mexico. I actually like Clovis, New Mexico. Shout out to Clovis, New Mexico. But if I live in Clovis, New Mexico, what airport do I have to go? Probably the Quacky, right? I'm going to Albuquerque. And then it's a direct flight anywhere. So how long is the drive? What happens with delays? And if it's more than just a direct flight, think about that. Do I want my son, if I'm from Clovis, or let's just say I'm from Albuquerque, and I want to go to school in the middle of Montana, so I've got to fly into here, and then I've got to catch a puddle jumper there, and then I got to take a bus, and then I got to get a Greyhound. Like, is it convenient? And if it's not convenient, I'm telling you, you're going to get frustrated. And hey, Aaron, does being homesick, is that a real thing?
Yeah, especially for the first couple of years away from home, and
yep. So you think about that. Like, what do you want when we're talking about traveling? Like, what hoops do you want to jump through when all the cute baseball, nobody cares? You want to get home. How long is it going to take you? What does that look like? Are there delays? Am I going to get stuck? If you're within a direct flight to whatever place and it's convenient, then consider it. But man, you wouldn't catch me if my boys were being recruited by a school. It wouldn't even be a thought if it wasn't at the most a direct flight to the location.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we had a kid just recently, like, Colorado Mesa is probably one of the best D2 programs in history, maybe the best,
Yes,
and they flew him out and brought him up, and he watched them and he was like, God, they were insane how good they were. It's beautiful, unbelievable. And then, he gets back here and he goes down to, a local JUCO, and then calls me later, like, all right, I'm going to this local JUCO, And I'm like, well, hey, tell me your decision, because obviously Mesa is they win the Natty at D2, like, I mean, seemingly every other year. I mean, they're incredible. And he was like, I just, I had to fly to Denver and then I had to drive an hour and 45 minutes. And
There you go.
he's like, I just don't ever see me coming home if I go there. And if I go to this JUCO, he's like, I can go home and see my mom every weekend if I want to, I can go see my family. I can see my friends. And this JUCO is really good too, by the way. So, yeah, it's just that's how it is. And I think when we kind of circle back to the crux of the topic where we're talking about, how important is traveling when it comes to the recruiting process, I think that's a lot of people don't understand is you go out to these places. Okay. If I'm in Atlanta, yeah, sure. Baylor and TCU and some of those schools might be there for sure. Okay.
Mhm.
But 75% of the schools that are in Atlanta are East Coast schools.
That's right.
Right? You're not going to see UCLA in Atlanta. If you do, it's because of a very specific reason, and they're in and out to see a specific player. You're not going to see, if you're a kid from Los Angeles and you want to stay in Cali, playing all your games on the East Coast 4 time zones away in the summer, who are you playing in front of unless you're trying to go to a school out there? So just be smart about it, because I think, you have to understand these recruiters, they're not machines. They're not robots. They have families they want to get home to. They have lives away from baseball that they want to live.
Good point.
So they're not just going to go spend 60 days in the summer on the road. They're going to stay in their region for the most part, right?
Great
They've
point.
got wives, they've got kids, they've got lives that they live that aren't just baseball. And they're not trying to just be away all the time. And the school can't afford to pay for them to be away all the time. And so if you want to go to a school in Texas, you need to play a lot of baseball in Texas. Okay. If you want to go to a school in Florida, you need to play a lot of baseball in Florida. So go play in the summer where you want to go to school. If you think going to Atlanta every other weekend in the summer is how you're going to get to a school in Texas, that's not the right mindset. Go play in Melissa, go play in Tomball, go play, and I promise you they'll find you. And
Yes.
another thing is with the social media world and how it is on recruiting. Dude, if you roll out anywhere in the country nowadays, most of these tournament sanctions have tweet and social media. If you roll out and you're having a monster weekend on the mound or you're dropping bombs or whatever, dude, they're going to see it. Like it'll pop up on Twitter. If you're out throwing 92, 93 miles an hour, carving guys up, you could go do it in Alaska and people are going to see it. So
that's right.
You need to really travel. I mean, there is definitely, I'm not saying that there's no point in it. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying, like, I think it can be very overrated. I think a lot of people feel like, I've got to go out and travel. I've got to go out and travel.
Yeah. And I think the piece that's missed on it, Aaron, is like this stuff is supposed to be fun too, guys. It like ask questions of the coaches that you play for in the summer and what's the purpose behind the events. But don't forget, we're playing the game for, like, you're supposed to play the game for fun. It's
Right.
not all about just recruiting all the time. And it's about experiences. And it's about, like, do you want to be gone every weekend in a living out of a suitcase so that your son can go play Division III junior college baseball when it's all said and done? That to me, just, it doesn't make sense. So understand, like, the kind of the funnel and where your son fits. Get him on a team according, and know that it's a regional deal. All sports are, I get, like, the massive football programs and everything, they pull wherever they want, but, like, in all likelihood, you're going to go to a regional school. So play for a team that plays in front of your regional teams.
Yeah. One other thing, like you kind of touched on it too, that kind of reminded me of one of the things I've always talked about when it comes to travel. Sometimes when you're on the road all summer, you're going to have a hard time working out as well as you could when you're at home.
Good point.
Okay? If you've got a strength coach back home, when you're out on the road, guess who you don't get to work out with? When you're living on the road, you're not sleeping in your own bed. So I don't care who you are, you don't sleep as well in a hotel room as you do in your own bed.
Yes.
You're not going to eat as well because you're going to probably be eating out. If you're driving around to a bunch of different tournament spots, you're eating McDonald's or you're stopping in at Chili's. You're not able to really control your nutrition plan.
Yep.
And guess what? Teenagers, they need social lives, right? They have not all their friends are on their travel baseball team, right? I don't know that their girlfriends play on their travel baseball team. When you remove a teenager from their social circle, you create anxiety, right? You create borderline depression when they're missing out on a lot of friend time, a lot of time that they're getting to hang with their boys or their girlfriend. So you're really like, there's so many parts about trying to travel all the time that actually end up being very detrimental. I see it a lot. And so don't miss out on that too, because I'm telling you, a lot of guys where they really miss the mark on this is they don't understand it is really, really difficult to live in a hotel room all summer trying to chase baseball.
It is. They call it the dog days of summer. I don't know. You went through it. I did. And you get to about July when you're in summer ball or you're in pro ball and you're like, oh my gosh, I would do anything to go home. And that is a real feeling. And I'll never forget. Like I played with the Grand Forks Channel Cats in the Northwoods League in between my sophomore and my junior year. And some guys on our team, it became like August 1st. This made like national news like back in 2000. But we had a 3-game series left, and they had a flight. Some California kids scheduled a flight on a day that we played. Well, blah blah blah. It gets so long. These guys are like, we gotta create a man-made rain out, so there's no chance we play this game because everybody just wanted to go home. These guys dug a bunch of ditches in the baselines and turned the sprinklers on, Bull Durham style. Okay, it was like on Fox National News. But my point in saying the dog days of summer, you get to the end and you're like, and if I'm a kid, like if I'm a high school kid, everything you just said is spot on. I want my personal time because it's important for personal development. Because when you look back at it, you're just going to say, okay, we did all of it. Now, where's he going? Okay, was that worth it? And the answer most of the time is probably going to be no. And you probably were going to say you could have scaled back. How many times have you heard parents say shoulda, woulda, coulda? And one of the things that I hear on that group and that I see in regular groups is this. Here's my bit. Here's my advice for going through everything that I went through. I wish we wouldn't have worried about select baseball so early. I wish we wouldn't have traveled so much. I wish we would have realized that we didn't have to. Take advice from people that have been through it. It's not that important. Okay.
No, it's not.
All right, let's go to our last topic of the day. Oh, you know what? And this is the first time me saying this, but this is episode 89 of the Baseball Forward podcast, Recruiting 101 with the ever great Aaron Cunningham and your host Ross Hawley. Aaron Cunningham is going to Thailand here very, very soon. Yes, man. All right, so let's finish up with the transfer portal. You know what? This is how I'm gonna let you lead off, Aaron. The transfer portal. Go.
Bum bum bum. Everybody, the vaunted transfer portal, right? Yeah. There's a million different avenues you could take talking about this. I think the transfer portal can be great. If you are a late bloomer, you can use the portal to move yourself up, maybe to a better situation, or now that there's NIL in baseball, a situation that could be more monetarily advantageous. You can look at the transfer portal from a negative light where, there's no loyalty. Everybody's just hopping around, and it's created a mess. And then you can talk about kind of some of the dark parts of the portal where, kids go in there and they never find a home. And I think one thing to always keep in mind is that not everybody in the transfer portal is some selfish person that's in there trying to bounce around. Some people are in the portal because they got cut or they got told that they need to go into the portal. So don't demonize kids that are in the portal. Also, don't demonize the ones that are trying to better themselves because, the adults created this. Okay. The kids didn't come up with this concept. This was created by a bunch of adults and people that are in power and have decisions. This is not the player's fault. Okay. And it's not the coach's fault. there's a committee that made this decision, but 99.999% of college coaches out there didn't create the transfer portal. So don't demonize coaches for both using it and telling
Great
kids
point.
to get in it. These are the rules that are being put forth in college baseball. And these college coaches, when they get hired, are hired to win. They're not hired to, in most cases, they're not hired to, give a bunch of guys chances and, develop anymore. The portal has created the mindset among athletic directors and administrators that, hey, there's a transfer portal, you need to start winning, right? Like there's no excuse you can't go find players. You don't get 3 or 4 years to develop a program anymore. I mean, you see it in college football like crazy now. It's like these dudes getting bought out for $100 million after they have one bad year. It's insanity. But in terms of the baseball side of it, you also need to take a step back as a parent that's a high school kid and understand this. These Division I college coaches are making a lot more money than college coaches have ever made, and they're not doing that. They're not getting that salary to lose games. They're getting it to win. If you are trying to build a roster of 34 players, okay, do you want a unproven high school kid who has never seen college competition, or do you want a 21-year-old with 600 college at-bats that's proven that he can hit and play and handle being a college student? Because not only are you getting the numbers and the proof in the pudding on the field, you also know this guy has proven that he can handle the classroom, that he can handle living away from home.
Great point.
Handle the rigorous lifestyle that comes with being a college athlete. People forget these kids still do have to go to class and they have to take care of themselves and they're responsible for themselves. I know, crazy.
I haven't even thought about that. What school? What?
Yeah. What is all that? Yeah. Like these professors actually make them do homework and take tests. Yeah. Like they're not pros. So there's so much to it. And like, if put yourself, so let's just use an example. Okay. Coach Johnson, Jay Johnson over at LSU. If you're Coach Jay Johnson and you're making 7 figures, okay, to get to Omaha every year, you would be not doing your job if you didn't use the transfer portal. You should be fired for not using the transfer portal. Paul Skeens did not go to LSU out of high school. Okay. Paul Skeens was at the Air Force Academy and was brought into LSU through the transfer portal. Okay. Yep. So when you want to look at how our roster is being built at the college level, kind of goes back to what I said earlier. This is a year-to-year thing because they can go out and there's thousands of guys in the portal. So kind of long-winded there, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty deep topic. I think we're starting to get out of the newness of it. I think a lot of people are starting to become much more aware of it, more aware of its impact on high school kids and kind of how much tougher it's made life for high school kids, And the other part of it too is not only has the portal made it harder, the draft went from 50 to 20, and now you're getting rosters have gone from 40 to 34, so they can't miss, right? Yep. And they can't take as many chances. They can't take the high school kid and hope he pans out when there's a kid sitting right here who last year at a mid-major hit 320 with 15 tanks. Who are you taking? I mean, it's a pretty easy decision. And I think most parents, if they were in those shoes, would do the same thing.
100%. And you know what? I'll say this about like the transfer portal. It's here, so accept it. And I for whatever reason, I'm not like I don't concern myself with knowing exact rules, what are the exact numbers and how many kids are in the portal and how many come out, and like knowing all these ins and outs of it. Cause I'm just like, these are things that are out of my control as I'm speaking as a player. You should be focused on this as a player, no matter what, transfer portal or no transfer portal. You should be focused on, are you becoming your best physical, mental, emotional version of yourself, and you're in a constant pursuit of that. And then on top of that, it's when it comes to recruiting, God, it'll never change. Aaron, we've been doing this a while now, and I'm like, one word comes to my mind when it comes to recruiting, and it's relationships. Like, recruiting's always going to be about relationships, and do you trust them, and ask the questions and the back and forth, and like get to know the people that you're putting your sons around. And it's like everybody wants to talk about all these ancillary things, but what's the scholarship amount and how many kids they have? I get all those things matter, right? But when it comes down to it, it's competition. When I get out on the field, it's me strapping it up, going against whoever else, and I'm trying to win. And I think if we could, as a collective group, just don't concern yourself with the things that are out of your control, because you can drive yourself insane. Worrying about, will my son get a chance? Yeah, he will. Just like, take care of yourself. Take care of your son, let him enjoy the game, become the best that you can. And to me, it's the transfer portal. It's part of it. It's irrelevant. And you're not going to change it. So focus on the relationships. Go out, find where your son can play, do the best you can, ask questions, do the best, do your research. But it doesn't all have to be doomsday stuff all the time with transfer portal. And I see all this on all the Facebook groups. I see these analytics on this guy, these guys carry this roster and this type of roster, and there's this many kids in the transfer portal. And I'm like, are you focused on playing baseball, or are you worried about all the rules that come along with it? That's my say on the transfer portal.
I love it. I talk about this all the time, man. I mean, I think one of the things that's sad about like what's starting to happen in baseball is everybody's just so worried about what's next.
Yes.
So what's next? Where do I go next? What do I do? Man, you get to play ball today, man. That should be the most exciting and most important thing to you. The future will take care of itself. If you're good enough, you're good enough. Okay. If you are good enough to play baseball at the University of Texas, you'll end up there if that's what you want. Okay. If you're good enough to play in the big leagues, you'll eventually get there if you can stay healthy. But it's like this generation that we've kind of, and look, there's a lot of people have created it. And like I said, it's mostly the adults in the room that have created it, not the kids. Is this what's next generation? Everybody wants to do this because it's going to create that down the road, or it's going to do, I need to play this so that I can go here.
Yep.
Just like you play because you love to play.
Man.
How about you love to go out in the backyard and play in the sandlot because you love to play, instead of just everything always having to be about, well, I'm not going to do that because then I won't be able to do this in the future. Bro, the future is not guaranteed for anybody.
Amen.
Okay? And a lot of people get lost in that, and it steals the joy from the ability to play today. Like, I'm going to go out to this tournament and I'm going to be so nervous or anxious, or I'm going to be so caught up in who's watching that I forget that, like, hey, this is a lot of fun. Let's just do that. Man. And what a lot of kids don't realize, the coaches want the kids that play like that.
Yep.
They don't want the kids who are sitting in the dugout worrying about who's watching or can I get recruited. They want the kids that are playing with unabashed joy and love, and just they look like they're just having so much fun. That's who the coaches want. So sitting around worrying about, where am I going to go to school? Hey, what scouts are here? Hey, like, I want to play in this tournament because it's going to help me get to the SEC. Dude, like there's some merit to some of that. But if that's why you're playing, you're going to end up being disappointed.
That's right.
And for the love of the game. If you do that, the cards will fall where they may.
What a solid point. And just, that's a controllable. And for the parents out there that listen to the Baseball Forward podcast, thank you. But if you have a son playing this awesome game, why are we not thinking about how the competition is going to shape who he is as a CEO someday? Why don't we project that stuff out? Why don't we're always worried just about baseball. Hey, listen, I get it. It's super important. It's my world. It's my life. But there's so many things that the game teaches you that I think that's a controllable, Aaron. And I say, if every parent just if they were intentional with their son, their daughter, whatever sports they're playing, and they were intentional and said, hey, we're going to make sure that this is fun first, because if it's not fun, we're not doing it. That should be number one. And then I'll say this to kind of to wrap it up. If all you want from baseball is money or status or anything, if joy isn't your number one thing that you want to get from the game as a player, you're probably going to fall short. Because I know this, you talk with any big leaguer, you talk with any guy that's played it at the highest level. Aaron, when does it not become fun? When it just when you quit is usually when you get away from the game. It's usually because it's not fun anymore. And when it's not fun, if you're not having fun, there's a chance that your end is near. I'll let you finish it up.
Man, that's it, man. I mean, the love of the game is why you should play it. And when that love dies out, man, it's time to go find something else to do, you know, and if you're playing with the expectation of like, I'm going to be let down if I don't get to this level, that's not the right mindset, but that's also, you're probably going to be let down, and you need to just find your why, find the reason why you love to play, and find that joy. Because baseball gets really hard, and beyond high school, it becomes very serious and very business-like. And if you're a high school kid right now, if you're a parent and you have a kid playing youth baseball, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, don't make it so dadgum serious. Okay. Don't get in the car and dissect every pitch of the game and come down on them if they had a bad game. Because I'm telling you, the moment your kid starts to feel stress and anxiety around baseball, you might as well just find them something else to do. Because those emotions are very difficult, almost impossible to overcome. Once they start to creep in, they're a monster, man, and they'll eat your kid alive, and then he's going to fall out of love with baseball. And especially as they start to get a little bit older, they'll realize there's a lot more to life than baseball, and they're out. So if you do want your kid to play baseball for as long as they're capable of, don't ever make it so dadgum serious. Don't put your kid in a position where they're going to associate anxiety and stress and anger and resentment and those types of emotions with the game of baseball. Because when that happens, right, and we all know it's a game of failure, so there's already going to be enough built-in frustration. When you couple all that stuff in on top of it, you're creating a monster that your kid will never be able to overcome. And so when your kid gets in the car, hey, what do you think you did great today? Okay, hey, what do you think you could have done better? All right, cool. All right, let's go get a cheeseburger and let's go home and watch football or something. Like, that's it, you know. And if your kid has a bad day at practice, if your kid has a bad weekend at the tournament, whatever, hey, man, guess what? Shohei Ohtani has had horrible baseball games. Okay, to me, that for my money, it's the best baseball player that's ever walked the earth. Shohei has had horrible baseball games where he struck out every at bat. He's had games on the mound where he lost the game for his team. So if you think your kid is better than Shohei Ohtani, you need a reality check. Okay. So get over it. It ain't that freaking serious. And if you really want your kid to make it, remember, their passion and joy and love for the game is what will carry them farther than anything else.
And if you're a player listening to this, and I know I did it. I used to just crave being in the big moment, crave being at the plate, crave give me the ball. I want it in the tough moment. I used to crave getting to the ballpark. When you don't crave it and you almost kind of dread it, and you're like, dang it, and I don't feel real confident with myself, that's when you have to step back and evaluate, because it's correctable. But I'm telling you from experience, what Aaron just said, just, man, it struck a chord with me. And I'm like, you can't fake wanting to be on the baseball field, and you can see it from the guys. Like, I needed that moment, and when I didn't need that moment, in fact, I was kind of like, I don't know that I want that moment anymore. you can't get that back. Like so pay attention. If you're dreading, you should not want dread going to the field. You should not dread going to practice. It should be sheer joy, and fight as a parent, as a coach, as a player, fight for that joy that surrounds this game. Because when you do have it, it sure is fun, isn't it? Isn't it, Aaron?
It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, it is. All right, guys. Hey, we're going to wrap this one up. Episode 89 of the Baseball Forward Podcast, College Recruiting 101. Aaron Cunningham, you enjoy Thailand, my friend.
I will, man. I will. We'll holler at you when we get back.
All right. See you, buddy.